conferencing to conduct the proceedings of this meeting. Before we start the main procedure meeting, I take the opportunity of introducing my colleagues on the board of your company. Mr. Kunnal Sikka, Managing Director and CEO of the company, participating from Bangalore. Mr. Chavan, Independent Director and Chairperson of the Audit Committee, Nomination Remuneration Committee, participating from Bangalore. Mr. Santanam Srinivasan, Independent Director of the company, participating from Bangalore. Dr. Krishnadas Nair, Independent Director and Chairperson of SRC of the company, participating from Bangalore. Mr. Anual Sikka, Non-Executive Director of the company, participating from Bangalore. Further, I would like to recognize the presence of Mr. Dinesh Bajraj, Chief Operating Officer of the company, participating from Bangalore. Mr. K.S. Satish, Chief Financial Officer of the company, participating from Bangalore. Mr. Barun Pandey, Company Secretary and Compliance Officer of the company, participating from Bangalore. I further acknowledge the participation of Mr. Girish Hosyala, representing Messrs. B.N. Subramanian and Company, Chartered Accountants and Statutory Auditors of the company from Bangalore. I now request Mr. Barun, Company Secretary, to take the meeting forward.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. The company has enabled the members to participate at the 36th Annual General Meeting through video conferencing facility provided by CDSL. In compliance with the applicable circular issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and SEBI, facility for joining this meeting through video conference has been made available for the members on first come first served basis. All the members who have joined are by default placed on mute by the moderator. The participation of members through video conferencing is being reckoned for the purpose of quorum as per the circular issued by the MCA and as per Section 103 of the Companies Act 2013. This meeting is being held through video conference in accordance with the circular issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and SEBI. Members have been provided with the facility to exercise their right to vote by electronic means, both through e-voting and e-voting at the AGM in accordance with the provision of Companies Act 2013 and SEBI listing regulations. The members joining the meetings through video conferencing who have not already casted their vote by means of remote e-voting may vote through InstaPoll e-voting facility provided by CDSL after the conducting of this AGM. The company has appointed Mrs. Gauri Balanke, Practicing Company Secretary, as a scrutinizer who will collate the voting result of the remote e-voting and InstaPoll e-voting at the EEGM for each of the item as per the notice. Representation under Section 113 of the Companies Act 2013 has been received in respect of corporate shareholders. Members are requested to refer additional information provided in the notes to AGM notice. Due to paucity of time, we request each of the registered speaker to restrict their question to be specific and brief. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for asking questions. Shareholders are hereby advised that statement made by management in the Q&A session describing the company objective, projection, estimates, figure, expectation, and prediction may constitute forward-looking statement within the meaning of applicable law and regulation. Actual result might differ materially from the expressed and implied. The company assumes no responsibility in respect of forward-looking statements herein, which may undergo change in future based on the subsequent development information or events. Kindly note that companies working in the defense sector and holding a corresponding license from the Government of India, there are restrictions due to the confidentiality in terms of information that can be disclosed, but that cannot be disclosed by the company. The statutory register has been made available electronically for inspection by the member during the AGM. As the AGM is being held through video conference, the facility for appointment of proxy by member was not available, and hence the proxy registered for inspection is not available. Thank you. Now I hand over to Chairman to continue with the proceedings.
Thank you, Barun. The company has taken all the efforts feasible under circumstances to enable members to participate and vote on the items being considered in the meeting. As the notice already circulated to all of the members, I take the notice of meeting as read. As no qualifications, observations, or comments by the independent auditor's report, the standalone and consolidated financial statements, and in the secretary audit report. With the consent of the members, I would like to take the independent auditor's report and secretary report as read. As per secretary standards, I would like Mr. Pandey, company secretary of the company, to put forward the resolutions to be passed in the AGM for the members, for the benefit of all the members present.
Thank you, sir. Resolution details. Ordinary business, ordinary resolution to receive, consider, and adopt the financial statement of the company, which includes the audited balance sheet as at 31st March 2022, the statement of profit and loss and cash flow statement together with the report of Board of Directors and Statutory Auditors report thereof. Agenda number 2, to declare dividend on equity shares for the financial year ended 31st March 2022. To appoint Mrs. Anual Sikka as a director who retired by rotation and eligible and being eligible offer herself for reappointment. Agenda number 4, special business ordinary resolution required appointment of Mr. Garimele Bhaskar Venkata Satya as the independent director of the company. These are the 4 resolutions which we had proposed in the notice. I hand over to the chairman, continue with the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite members who have previously registered as speaker for procedure given in 36 AGM notice for any questions pertaining to any items on the notice and financial statements. We'll continue.
Member requested to mention their name and folio ID or client ID before asking their questions. I shall now ask moderator to give his general instruction to the members who are present and who wish to seek clarification one by one. So, Harisha.
Yes, sir. Good morning to one and all. Anyone who wish to speak and registered speaker shareholders, as per the order that has been registered, we will be enabling the speaker shareholders one by one. You will be given a time of 3 minutes to speak. Maybe you can connect through an audio and we will also try to connect you through video in case you have an bad bandwidth. So then you restrict yourself to only audio so that we can hear you properly. Now I request the host to, in the sense, find out if Mr. Vivek Chaturvedi has joined the meeting and kindly allow him to speak.
Yeah, Mr. Vivek Chaturvedi is not available in the meeting. And for next participant, next speaker shareholder, Mr. Rajeev Sika also not available in the meeting. I will go for third speaker shareholder, Mr. Hardik Indranil Jain. So Mr. Hardik Indranil Jain, you can unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please switch on your video as well.
I don't know, it's not happening. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me now properly.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So I'm a new shareholder to this company. So some of my questions will be to basically understand the business a bit better. There are many segments or businesses are mentioned on the website of the company. So which businesses comes under the engineering product and which comes under the engineering system? Because in the revenue, we give a breakup as engineering products and engineering systems. According to website, our MRO business is done through Aerotech Sikka JV. But last year, the top line of this JV was nil. So we do MRO business through standalone entity as well, or only through this subsidiary? My third question is, what is our current order book for the products business, system business, and the MRO business? And if MRO business is done through both standalone and JV, then if separate you can give, that will be helpful. Now, just to understand our business, so our raw material consumed for the entire year was 65 crore, and the imports of the parts and stock in trade was 57 crore, and also our plant and machinery is just 2 crore. So, are we only doing the testing and assembly work, and not the manufacturing? If you can just briefly explain that uh, business. Our service revenue was only less than 1 crore last year. So how do you see this growing? And this service revenue is the MRO business. If you can just clarify on that. Uh, Whatever setup we have as of today, what kind of peak revenue we can generate in this setup, and are we planning any capex for FY23 or and FY23? And now my questions related to the other business. So we were planning to do something in the tourism business. So if you can explain what we are planning, and will that be in this company, or you are considering it to do in some other company? And we also have some extra land bank not utilized for the core business of the company. So how much land we own, and what is the value, and what we are planning to do for that? Those were my questions. Thanks for the opportunity.
Now request our Managing Director, Mr. Kunnal Sikka, to respond to the queries.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Jain. Pleasure to connect with you. Thank you for your questions. We appreciate you trying to understand the company better. We appreciate the time that you've clearly spent in terms of going through the website, whatever is available in the public domain, including the annual report and so on. So again, thank you for your questions. I made a note of the questions that you have asked, and I'll try to address them in the order that you had asked them. Your first question was going by there are various things shown on the website. So what does each category fall into in terms of the business? On that, I won't be able to go into each product, because as you would appreciate, there are quite a few things shown on the website. To help you understand better, what I can explain is that generally speaking, our engineering projects and systems business is more of an EPC type of business, where it is complete end-to-end, long-dated kind of projects that we take on. So those can be with various types of customers, but typically long-dated, requiring multidisciplinary skills. Typically, again, being built to a certain specification, so it's not a standard off-the-shelf product. So that is what the engineered projects and systems consists of. Then we have the engineered products, which is a combination of both our own products, which have been designed and developed previously, that we get repeat orders for, and can be done in a relatively shorter time cycle, as well as products that we work with some of our international partners on, where we do work sharing here to deliver final products to the customer. And the third, which is the engineering services, that's, to be honest with you, is a very complementary business to the first two. We don't see that as being a main a driver of our business model, but more in terms of supplementing and complementing the other areas. And that is in the form of, as the name suggests, engineering services, which can be in the form of design work, it can be in the form of on-site support. So various things fall in there. Your last question, I can address here. Not your last question. I've noted down as your fifth question. You asked the service revenue, how is it growing, and does the MRO business fall in here? The service revenue, as I just said, is not a key focus area for the company. It is more something that supports the other two areas. The MRO business does not actually fall in here. The MRO business is part of our engineered projects and systems business, because again, that is something that is not a one-off. It is something that it goes on over a long period of time. Typically, we have long-term business agreements for such activity or something similar. And also, in MRO, it's always each time you do it is different from the previous one, because it's not a standardized process that you just go through every time. It depends on the nature of the condition of the equipment that comes in. Then your next question was regarding MRO again, whether it is being done only through the JV with Aerotech Sikka or whether it's being done in the main Sikka business. So today, actually, pretty much all of the MRO business is being done through the main Sikka company, and not through the Aerotech Sikka joint venture. Your next question was on the current order book breakdown between the various sectors. We don't actually disclose the breakdown between the order book. That is not, we don't provide that breakdown, so I will not be able to share that with you at this time. Your question after that was that, looking at the annual report, are we only doing assembly and testing and not manufacturing? That's a good question, and I guess being new to our company, I can explain this a little bit to you. So the company follows what we like to call an asset-light business model, where we generally only invest in very unique or specific capabilities or facilities. And what that means is facilities that we cannot buy as a commodity through our supply chain or outsource, right? And all of the commoditized manufacturing, whether it is metal fabrication, machining, or electronics, for example, electronic boards and so on, that is all done through our supply chain, and we consider all of that as being commoditized and not something that we want to do in-house necessarily, because of, again, the nature of our business, where there is a lot of diversity with low volume. To be able to set up all of the manufacturing in-house would not really be feasible to do, given that, as well as the fact that if we do set up various manufacturing capabilities in-house, then that would take away from our focus, our main business focus, and then we would have to get into really selling machine hours. So that is not something that we are focused on. And what this enables the company to do is to focus on what we believe are our core competencies, which is design, assembly, testing, integration, and MRO, which typically requires skilled staff rather than significant capex. So accordingly, the company will continue to invest in additional balancing equipment on an as-needed basis, and also we are prepared to invest in larger capex as well for specific projects, subject to there being an attractive business case associated with that. And to sum this up, what this means is that all of these factors allow the company to maintain a strong return on equity for our shareholders. Your next question was regarding service revenue, which I've addressed. Coming to the following question, which was regarding peak. You asked about peak, what would be peak revenue and what is the capex that would be associated with that. So I don't think we are looking at any peak revenue right now for our business. I think we're very far away from that. Again, given the way the sector is evolving with the initiatives that have been introduced by the government and are being implemented presently, the tailwinds that is likely to provide in the coming years as it materializes into actual business opportunities. The company maintains a rather positive outlook on the prospects for this sector accordingly in the coming years. And so we're looking to grow both organically as well as inorganically. So the capex question related to that, as I answered in my previous question, in my response to your previous question, we are prepared to make capex investments for things that we don't believe we can source through our supply chain or through commoditized producers of such products here in India, either because of not there being sufficient quality or timely delivery, or if the business case says that there's sufficient volume for us to set it up in-house. So capex is not something that we shy away from. It's something we're ready to invest on, and in fact, the company is evaluating various opportunities where there may be requirements of capex. Your subsequent question was on the opportunity in tourism. So the tourism was something that the company was pursuing really as a separate business opportunity uh, related to a project that was approved by the government of Karnataka. Um, as we said regarding our other businesses, what we consider non-core, and that ties in with your next question, which was about the land bank that the company has. All of these are being looked at really as a whole of things that are not part of the main business. So, what are the different options that we have to deal with them in terms of how do we unlock value for shareholders in the best possible way. And so one of the options that is being considered is the segregation of these non-core assets. And this is something that is being actively evaluated, and there has been some progress. But any specifics on the way forward in this regard will be shared with the shareholders once there is a suitable scheme that is approved by the board of directors. With that, I think I have answered all of the questions that Mr. Jain had posed. So thank you again, Mr. Jain, and I request the moderator to invite the next speaker, please.
For next speaker shareholder, Mr. Balaji, GR Balaji.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please enable your video.
Are you able to see me?
Yes, we can see. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the management for giving the opportunity. Again, this is my first AGM for the Sika. So thanks for the opportunity. And I have already written the question to the management. So can you confirm you have received, and do you want me to repeat, or you'll be able to answer?
Mr. Balaji, good morning. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for registering as a speaker. I would request that just for the benefit of everyone else on the call, and to make sure that we have all of your questions, that you could run through them,
Sure.
just so that everyone else is also familiar with what we will be addressing for you.
Sure, I'll do that. So my first question, what is the current order book and the time for execution of the same? Second, business split between defense, aero, and auto. Which segment are we very bullish among the three, and why? Third, how is component MRO segment is doing now as we are out of pandemic and travel is improving significantly? Fourth, revenue. Sale of engineering system had come down sharply during the year from 49 crores to 38 crores. What is the reason behind it, and what is the outlook in this segment? Fifth question, what is the medium term 3 to 4 years growth aspiration for the company, both in terms of revenue and profit? During last AGM, we spoke about looking at long-term growth between 15 to 20%. Is this still holds good, or the prospect is getting better due to recent development, as you have alluded in the previous commentary? Sixth, what is the sustainable operating margin for our current business, and what is an aspirational margin which the management is looking in the medium term? Who is our competitor, and what is the market opportunity in terms of what's the market size in India where we are operating in? Eighth question, what are the key elements needed to be successful in our business, and how are we placed over our peers? Okay, current capacity doesn't hold good because you have answered we don't do capex much. So I will skip the question. My ninth question, what is our organizational structure? Any recent recruitment in mid to top management in the last 1 to 2 years? As you have said, it's people-based business rather than a infrastructure-based business. And finally, what is the current status of the land, both Hoskote and Bommasandra? How large the land parcel, and when are we looking to complete this segregation? So these are my questions. And I have one small request to the management. Maybe if you can release one PPT in a year, it will be very good in terms of for us to understand the company better. That's something a request. I thought I'll put it across. And the final request, post-pandemic also request the management to do AGMs through also virtual, because then people from outside Bangalore also will be able to attend. These are two wish lists to the management. Wish you a great year and wish you good luck. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Balaji, and appreciate you going through the questions again, which we definitely see as showing you a strong interest in the company. So thanks again. We well noted your request regarding the continuing in a virtual format, and to be very honest with you, that's one of the reasons why this year we decided to go ahead with the virtual format, is that it gives shareholders who are not necessarily located in and around Bangalore much easier access to be part of it and have the opportunity to interact with the company. So yeah, I think that is something that we will seriously consider doing so in the years ahead, obviously subject to the regulations allowing it. Now, coming to your questions, starting with your question, the order book. The current order book is approximately 1.2 times last year's revenue, and the execution time frame for the same is over the current and the next year. I would just like to add that the way our business works and this kind of tallies with what you asked in question 4 regarding the specific subsection of engineering systems, is that we have both long cycle orders as well as short cycle orders. So a lot of the short cycle orders that we see, and we have already received some and executed already in the course of this year, as well as others that are continuing to come in and will be executed either this year. There are many more in the pipeline that are expected to come in the short term and will be executed probably in the next financial year. So that is something to bear in mind when we look at our order book, which may not necessarily be in line with how some of the pure play projects only companies would look at their order books. With regard to your question on the business split between defense, aero, auto, the current revenue breakup, to answer that, is predominantly skewed towards the aerospace and defense sectors. And which segment are we bullish on among these? So I think we maintain our positive outlook on the prospects for the aerospace and defense sectors in the coming years, given as you rightly mentioned some of the commentary that I stated earlier with regard to the developments in the Indian aerospace and defense industry. A lot of it driven by some of the policy initiatives being implemented by the government, which are expected to play out in the coming years and as a result materialize in actual business opportunities. So I think that's what we're most bullish on. Regarding the MRO, your question on MRO, component MRO, how is it doing and so on. Our existing component MRO business has normalized. Pleased to report on that. And at the same time, we are pursuing additional growth opportunities also to grow our component MRO business. I think one thing from our perspective, where we are finding a lot of the growth on the component MRO side is linked to the aerospace sector. But when we look at the aviation sector, there still are a lot of challenges, both in terms of the industry structure as well as government policy, which we certainly hope that there will be further improvements. There have been some in the recent years, but I think similar to the way the government has galvanized all of its policy initiatives for the aerospace sector, we would love to see a similar thing happen on the commercial aviation side as well, where the government kind of comes in and really brings in policies that will incentivize the airlines to bring in to get them to work with Indian component MROs, which would bring the OEMs to come in line with that. The OEMs from outside the country who really control a lot of the technology around that. I think that is something that we hope to see in the coming years. On your question regarding the variation in the engineering system revenue last year versus the previous year, that what is behind that and the outlook. So this, to be very honest with you, as I said earlier, this is a reflection of the change in the mix of types of orders being executed. The long-term outlook in this regard remains really the same. Again, the reason for the change is purely a reflection of the nature of how a project-based business model works in a long industry cycle. Being a company that works typically on more long-dated projects, this can often result in uneven and skewed patterns of sales. And the timing of these revenues associated with such projects is subject to a number of different factors, including customer approvals, regulatory approvals, and overall execution. And given the supply chain disruptions that we've had in the last year, that has also been another major factor. These things have caused fluctuations, and most of these will continue to cause fluctuations over reporting period, over various reporting periods. But I think over time, we expect the outlook is to be the way we look at it, the outlook is unchanged in this regard. Coming to your question on the medium-term growth aspiration for the company, as well as about the in terms of both revenue and profit. So the medium-term aspiration for the company is to double. The company is very focused that on the growth that it takes on, that it should be profitable, sustainable growth, and not just growth for the sake of it. The long-term growth projected that you mentioned, that holds good for now. With regard to your next question on the sustainable operating margins for the business, I think the margins that we've witnessed in recent years we believe are sustainable, and the company is comfortable with pursuing similar margins in the medium term. Your next question was on who our competitors are and what the market opportunity is. Look, I think in terms of a lot of the products that we play in, or the types of projects that we play in, we compete with different companies depending on what the products are. In fact, in some of these cases, we don't compete with any Indian companies. In those bids, we only compete against international companies. So it's hard to really name specific competitors. And again, that's a reflection on the type of the business model that we pursue. We don't want to chase whatever is the hot topic in the market, which results in 10, 15, 20 companies chasing the same business. Rather, we look at where can we add value both for the customer as well as for our shareholders. So that's really a guiding philosophy for us in terms of how we pursue what is available in the market. And we believe there are sufficient opportunities of that nature available in the market for us in this sector, and for us to be able to grow in the way that we would like to see ourselves grow. In terms of what are the key elements needed to be successful in our business, I think in our industry, just like most of the industry, cost and delivery at the end of the day, irrespective of what the product or the equipment is. And so what drives that really is people. We are very proud of the team that we have, and it's a team that we are looking to continue growing in the years to come, in the current year as well as the years to come, to complement what we're doing and to strengthen some of the systems and processes that we're putting in place to make our business more and more robust going forward. In terms of any recent recruitment into the top management in the last couple of years, yes, we've, for example, very recently there was a disclosure. We've added Varun, who's sitting alongside me, to our management team, who's obviously company secretary and compliance officer from a statutory perspective, but will also be driving a lot of the corporate affairs kind of initiatives, some of which we've mentioned in the earlier commentary. And along with that, there are other people in not just in top management, but mid management as well, that we have added on our execution side as we are looking to, as I said, bring in more robust processes and systems. So we have added people there, and we're looking in general to add people on both sides. And as well as to complement the recruitment within our ranks, we're also looking to. We obviously already have a very esteemed group of individuals who are independent directors on our board, who add a lot of value and provide a lot of guidance to the management in terms of what the company should be looking at in terms of its business growth as well as other factors. And towards that, we're also, as you've seen in the notice and you've probably already voted on, we are inducting. The board has approved, subject to shareholder approval, the addition of another independent director on our board, Mr. GVS Bhaskar, who is formerly CEO of the helicopter complex at HAL. And again, additions like this on our board, where we have active independent directors involved in guiding the business, will only further serve to enhance the kind of the bandwidth that we have at the top of the company. Your last question was with regard to the status of the land, which we specified as being, which we've talked about as being non-core business. And as I mentioned in my response to Mr. Hardik Jain in the previous speaker, that the company is indeed actively evaluating various options to unlock value for shareholders in this regard. And that one of these options includes potentially segregation of these non-core assets. And as I said, there has been some progress in this evaluation, but any specifics on the way forward, including timeline, can only be shared with shareholders once a suitable scheme has been approved by the board of directors and as appropriate or as required, put in front of shareholders for their approval. I think with that, I have addressed all of the queries from Mr. Balaji. Thanks again, Mr. Balaji, for your participating as a speaker and your very valued questions, as well as your kind wishes that you convey to the company. Thank you. Moderator, if we can invite the next speaker, please.
Yeah, for next registered speaker shareholder, Mr. Dadania Raj, as mentioned in the name Mr. Raj, I'm allowing him. So we'll confirm the full name first. Mr. Raj, please confirm your full name and confirm your folio.
Sir, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. Am I audible?
Yeah, it's audible. Please switch on your video.
Am I able to see?
Yeah.
So thank you for this.
Yes, we can see you.
Just to understand the company better, I have a few questions.
I think just before your questions, good afternoon, Mr. Raj. Just before your questions, the moderator had asked a couple of questions. Moderator, if you want to repeat your question.
Yeah, please confirm your full name and your mention your folio name as well.
So my full name is Dadania Raj.
Okay, sir. Just confirmation purpose only. Okay, please go ahead.
First of all, thank you for this opportunity, sir. So I have a couple of questions to understand company better. Sir, any planning for positive investor relation by starting investor presentation or any con call? And the second question is regarding, do we have any competitor in MRO service or in interconnection system? Next question is, if we dig further into engineering products and engineering system, what does that particular engineering products include and that engineering system includes? And the next question, do we manufacture landing gear for UAVs or other aircraft other than Dornier 228? And the last question is on sir growth prospect. Where do you see our company in after 3 to 5 years? Thank you, sir.
So thanks very much, Mr. Raj, for joining as a speaker today, and we appreciate your questions that you've posed. I've quickly tried to make a note of. I think there were 5 questions that you put forward, and I'll sequentially address each one of them. The first one with regard to more engagement with investors in terms of investor relations, and having regular conference calls and so on. I think that's something that is well noted. I don't think I can provide an immediate response to you on that. It's something that we will discuss internally and as well as within the board and determine what would be the best way forward in that regard. Also considering that the company, the management and the company is today very much focused on growth, and so as you would appreciate with that, the management bandwidth is really dedicated to that. But definitely we'll take that under consultation and see what we could do potentially in that regard. Your next question with regard to competitors, specifically on MRO and interconnect systems. On interconnect systems, there is a lot of competition. There are a number of players in this space, and as a result of that, and what we've seen happen for the most part is that's become a to some extent a commoditized business where margins are fairly low. But at the same time, the company is focusing on opportunities in that space where, for either because of some technical or customer relationship reason, we're well positioned to participate in such opportunities. So though we are much more selective as a result on that space as compared to other companies that are dedicated to doing that kind of work. On the MRO side, competition, yes, there are a number of MRO players in India on the airframe side as well as a few on the component side. However, we don't compete with any of them for the types of products that we provide MRO support for. The ones that we provide MRO support for are exclusive to what we do, at least as of today. On your question regarding engineering services, engineering systems, what types of products go into these? As I mentioned in my response to the first speaker, Mr. Jain, that's not something that we like to go into detail on, again, because of confidentiality reasons with our customers, as well as the fact that we operate, as Barun had pointed out earlier, under restrictions on what we can and cannot say in terms of our industrial license from the government of India. But generally speaking, as I said, long dated projects, as well as all our MRO businesses in our engineered systems business, and shorter dated, shorter cycle orders which relate to products that we've designed and today is a build to print kind of job for us, or that we work share on with our international partners. That's what goes into our engineered products. And then finally, on engineering services, that is related mostly, as I said, it's a complementary business to the other two businesses. And in that we provide, it could be design services, it could be on-site services, whatever it takes in terms of supporting the other two businesses. Coming to your next question regarding what areas are we working on landing gear on? Before I answer that, I would just like to explain that landing gear is actually one of the most complex systems. It's not really considered a component. Most complex systems that is part of an aircraft. Generally speaking, it's considered after the engine to be the most complex and the most critical part of an aircraft. And so, as you would appreciate, that with such a system, it takes time to be able to work on getting such an order, because there's a lot of steps involved in terms of getting the customer to share their specifications, study that. There are various standards that are involved. There may be some balancing investments that get involved each time, because every landing gear is different. But that being said, it is an area that we started on a few years ago, and so far we're quite pleased with the way it has gone from a landing gear manufacturing perspective. You did ask about UAVs. We are manufacturing landing gear for UAVs. We can't disclose the name. And we have certain other projects in the pipeline as well that are under active discussion presently. Coming to your last question regarding the prospects of the company in the next 3 to 5 years, as I mentioned earlier, the company maintains a positive outlook on the prospects for this sector in the coming years. And so we're looking, as a result, to grow both organically as well as inorganically. You may need to go closer. The company's objective is to continue on its growth path by winning new projects through a combination of both R&D as well as build-to-print based manufacturing. And to achieve this, the company is looking at making balancing investments in its facilities and to augment our human capital as well. Can I request whoever's put on their mic to switch it off? It's causing an echo. And at the same time, as I mentioned to an earlier speaker, the company is also, we have the resources available, as the shareholders are aware, from our balance sheet to make large investments, and that is also something that the company is prepared to do, obviously subject to there being an attractive business case. As I said earlier, for us, it's not just about growth for the sake of growth, but it needs to be profitable, sustainable growth. So I think with that, I've addressed all of Mr. Raj's queries. Thanks again, Mr. Raj, and I request the moderator to invite the next speaker if we have any speakers left.
Yeah. Next speaker shareholder, Mr. Saurabh Ajay Jain. And Mr. Saurabh Jain, you can enable your video and please go ahead with your query.
Management, a very good afternoon. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Yes. Should I go ahead with my questions actually? And can I do this one by one, or would you prefer if I just say them in one go and then you can answer them?
I think the protocol that's set out is just to be to follow the protocol that has been set out for all shareholders. Mr. Jain would request that if you can just spell out your questions, and then we'll aim to our best to respond to them.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so the earlier participants have asked a lot of questions, but just I had a few others. So I wanted to understand that how much of our sales of 102 crores in FY22 were to the government, and also what is the process of winning orders for these, and in general, how much of our business is actually tender based, and what are the qualification requirements for participating in these tenders? And is it completely focused on being a low cost bidder, or is there some kind of technical know-how also which is taken into consideration? So if you can elaborate on this 102 crores, how much is to government, how much is non-government, and tender based, non-tender based. The next question, I understand that you may not be able to give some information, but I'd still like to push and ask that of the engineering products, which is 60 crores of our sales in FY22, what is the revenue breakup product wise, and if you can give us some segments. So I understand for the EPC part of the business, which is engineering systems, which is about 40 crores, you can't, because that by its nature is a lot of things. But yeah, I'd appreciate if you can give the breakup of the products. Also, the next question is, have we introduced any new products in the last 1 or 2 years? And how do we expect these to be in the next few years? The next question, that the exports business has remained a very small portion of revenues for the company historically, and is this something that we are trying to scale in the future? Because Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make My India is giving a big thrust to export opportunity opening up. And on this same note, have we added any international clients in the year, or is this process on of adding any new international clients? The next question, and I think this is quite important to just understand the business better. It's been touched on before, but of our total gross block of 42 crores on a consolidated basis, the plant and machinery is 3 crores, and this hasn't changed much in the last couple of years. And we are able to do about 102 crores of revenue. So I understand that we might be giving processing of this certain products as well as EPC part outside. But from what we understand, in defense and aerospace, there is a lot of IP involved, and there's a lot of confidentiality which the customers may want. So how do we manage that? And especially, we've seen a lot of the defense and aerospace companies, they like to own the manufacturing. It's in fact globally, I haven't come across many companies which are asset light, because again, to be able to ensure quality, to be able to ensure secrecy, IP, etc., etc. Yeah, if you can give more detailed answer for this specifically. The next question was that in FY19, as per the annual report, the company had 43 permanent employees, which increased to 70 in FY20, and now in FY22 it's gone to 50.
Hello, yes, Srikant.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So
Sir, can you please avoid repeated questions? So we have a time limit of 3 minutes. So
yeah,
if you
just
have any
last one.
questions, you can mail it to the company, and they will revert the same.
Yeah, just last 2 or 3 questions.
Yes.
Yeah, so So basically, if you can give the reason for this up and down in the number of employees, and also give the total number of employees as of now, including permanent and contractual or casual. The next question was that, we have about 50 crores worth of investments plus cash available. So what are we planning to do with this? And, Kunal had referred to, Kunal, you had referred to doing CapEx if required. So any plans that we have, maybe in this coming year or the next year, of doing any CapEx or even any inorganic growth? And, uh, you know, uh, the next question is that, the competition that we have, you've talked about this, but is it primarily domestic local companies who are competing with us, or are there some global companies who set up operations in India also who are competing with us for some of these orders? And just the last question is that, you've talked about doubling our revenue and profits, and any timeline as to doing this? Yeah, and thank you and appreciate if you can give a detailed answer to these.
Thanks, Mr. Jain, for your questions, and it's good to see you again at our AGM. So we appreciate your participation. I have tried to make a note of your various questions, and hopefully I've got them all, and I'll try to address each one of them. Now, starting with the first one, which was about how do we get business in terms of what is the procedure, was your question, whether it's tender based and qualification requirements and so on. So again, it varies in terms of, it depends based on the customer. There's also some variation within the same customer, which I'll elaborate on a bit. Typically, as you know, anything that's government procurement has to follow a certain tendering process. What happens is, typically, if it is the first time they're procuring something, then it has to be a competitive tender. That competitive tender can be a completely open tender, a global tender, or they can restrict it to a few companies that they know of that are capable in that area. And what happens is, typically once you supply through that, if you win, then you will get proprietary kind of status. Again, typically there's not 100% always, but you'll get a proprietary status based on which then future procurement will be from you based on prices and terms that have previously been agreed. Coming to your part, the other part of the same question regarding the qualification requirements, and is it just about the lowest cost bidder? At the end of the day, yes, if it is a government procurement with and a competitive tender, finally it comes down to being the lowest cost bidder. But at the same time, the qualification requirements do matter in most cases, where only technically competent companies are allowed to participate, or at least only their bids will be accepted. So in most cases, again, I caveat that by saying in most cases, you will have cases where the qualification criteria either doesn't exist or aren't tight enough. But in most cases, the qualification criteria will address the requirements quite sufficiently and ensure that only companies that are capable of delivering a certain solution participate. And so in such case, being the lowest cost bidder is not really that necessarily that bad a thing, because it means that you're competing with similar companies or companies that have similar capabilities and as a result cost structures. And so we find that pricing of these companies is generally in the same ballpark. Just excuse me for 1 second, please. At the same time, there is also non-government procurement when we work with private sector, whether it's OEMs or even tier 1s and tier 2 companies, private sector companies, as well as international companies. Again, those are typically competitive bids, but it does not necessarily follow the lowest cost bidder model. That's usually a combination of technical competence, price, lead time, and factors like capacity. In some cases, splitting the order among multiple suppliers. So again, there's variation in that. But in general, just like in any business, you have to be, I think, first of all, cost competitive to be able to win business. Your question on the breakup of products within engineered products. Again, that's something, as I stated earlier, unfortunately, it's not something that we do disclose, and that's not something that we're looking to start disclosing at this stage. Coming to your next question, which was on any new products in the last couple of years and the outlook for this. I think last couple of years may be a little short time frame. Maybe if we look at the last 3 or 4 years, particularly considering the last 2 years have largely been pandemic years and has been more focused on existing business rather than new products. Yes, we have had some new products or systems in the last 3 or 4 years, and pleased to report that those have gone off. Those initial orders have gone off quite successfully, and we are already seeing some repeat business related to that. So we are quite positive on the outlook relating to these products or systems. On exports, you're right in that exports is a small part of our business today, and are we looking to scale that up under Atmanirbhar Bharat? To be very honest with you, in our sector, Atmanirbhar Bharat is more to do with inward looking rather than outward looking. Yes, you can always say that make for India and then make for the world, but in our industry, I can't say I'm making a certain product for, say, a certain aircraft or helicopter here in India, and that I will sell the same product to another customer. Typically, that doesn't happen except in very few cases. Each is a build to spec kind of part because of the nature of again the way these aircraft or helicopters work, and so I'm not necessarily sure that Atmanirbhar Bharat will necessarily result in exports being one of the main resulting outcomes of that. But with regard to exports, also one of the reasons why exports has remained small for us is that at least today in our sector, a lot of what we're seeing happening in terms of exports is lower down the value chain in terms of a lot of metal parts, fabricated parts, machine parts, or as I mentioned to Mr. Raj, the previous speaker, it could be in interconnect systems where again there is tremendous competition. People have put in significant capex, and because the competition margins are very low, and so while as a company we have evaluated going after such businesses, it did not tick our boxes in terms of what we would look at in terms of return on equity, and so we chose consciously not to pursue those. But yes, you can get significant turnover scale up through that, but it did not tick the boxes in terms of the minimum margin requirements that we would ideally like to have. Yes, exports are growing in our sector as a whole, but it's largely concentrated in that kind of equipment or those kinds of products, and not really in more value add, which is where our strength lies. Your next question was regarding capex not having moved much in the last couple of years, and you made an observation that companies, given the nature of the business, would like to own manufacturing due to IP or secrecy issues. I think the way I would like to respond to that is if you look at, say, a company like Airbus, which is really one of the largest aircraft manufacturers in the world. I think 70% of what their final product is not done in-house. It is done through their suppliers and their suppliers, as you call the tier ones, tier twos, tier threes. And I'm not saying that we are anywhere close to Airbus in terms of size or scale, but it's a model that is well entrenched in our industry, and it makes sense depending on again within our industry what kind of business model do you follow. So, for example, if somebody is doing a business of fabricated parts, yes, it makes sense. You're only doing that. You're going to run a plant 24/7 to do that. You probably want to have your own in-house capability, not so much necessarily for secrecy and IP, but given the fact that you have enough utilization. But in our kind of business where there is a great variety, as I mentioned to one of the earlier speakers, it's high mix, low volume. So there's a large variety. For example, on all of the projects that we currently have under execution, there is very little commonality in the type of equipment that is required between each project in terms of the manufacturing process. We are fortunate to have very good suppliers to us, a supply chain that we built up over the last 20 or 25 years, and that we continue to build up and grow as the business expands or gets into new areas. Where we built up the supply chain that is able to support us for all of our requirements. And if we had to set up all of those facilities in-house, the cost that would be involved, and B, the utilization would be far too low to justify doing that. And it would require a change, as I mentioned to one of the earlier speakers, in our business philosophy or our business model of then going away from where we consider ourselves a value-added engineering partner to instead being a commoditized manufacturing facility, really just doing what there are enough other shops in and around Bangalore and in India doing, which is effectively selling machine hours. So that is something consciously we've decided not to do, and I think I've given a lot of the remaining response for the asset light model earlier to one of the to the other speaker. But at the same time, we do recognize that there will be some processes or maybe it's testing or something like that for which we will have to make capex, and that is something that the company is ready to do, and in fact has committed in a few cases to do where the business case has made sense to do so. And again, capex in terms of any new projects, it could be a large project as well. You mentioned the type of resources that we're sitting on. It could be a large project as well, but again, we're very clear about the metrics that we would gauge a project on, and it has to both fit those metrics as well as fit our business model. Coming to your next question on actually it's linked to that is on the investments that and cash that is sitting on the balance sheet. Whether we have plans to make any capex or organic growth, I think the reason that's lying there is because the company is very optimistic on our business and the sector we're on, and believe that there will be opportunities in the near and medium and as well as long-term future to deploy this capital. I think in the very short term, there are things that we're evaluating, but nothing that a call has been taken on. I think as and when a call is taken on and approved by the directors, definitely it's something that will be communicated to the shareholders. But it's something that, as I said, I just want to reiterate, we are very clear that we want to deploy this capital. It's not sitting on our balance sheet as us looking at being an investment manager on the side. It's very much just parked there. It's in a holding pattern right now because we do see opportunities evolving through the combination of some of the policy changes that have been implemented by the government that will take time to materialize but are in process, as well as some of the other opportunities that we see on the horizon. I mentioned about the civil aviation MRO side and so on. We do believe that in the medium term, these opportunities will open up, and some of the dust today we believe there's a lot of noise as well associated with the sector, where there's a lot of people clamoring to jump on board because of, I think, all of the media hype that is there around the sector. Not to say that there aren't opportunities, but they're not necessarily ones that you can capitalize on in the very immediate term, but are more for the medium term. And we believe that when the dust settles, that will create additional opportunities for the company to act on. Regarding competition, it's something that I addressed with the last speaker as well, Mr. Raj, but I'll just repeat that we see competition both. Again, we participate in a wide variety of bids, where in some cases which are, again, because of government policy, open only to Indian companies, and so naturally we compete only with Indian companies. But there are other cases where it may be a niche technology. There's not much competition in India, so to create competition, whoever's the buyer will invite bids from international companies as well. And I'm pleased to say that in general we find that we're not only technically capable, but also cost competitive in those projects, and we've been quite successful in implementing those. I think with that, I've addressed whatever I've noted down here in terms of your questions. And so I will request, and before I request, I would again like to thank you for your commitment and participation in our AGMs, and clearly the time that you've taken to understand our business, and we appreciate the questions. So thanks again, Mr. Jain, Saurabh Jain, and I request the moderator now to invite the next speaker if we have any further speakers in the queue.
Yeah, next registered speaker, Mr. Gopal P, is not available in the meeting. Over to you, sir.
Okay, so thanks very much again to all the speakers for really adding a lot of value to this AGM in terms of the questions that you'll have asked and demonstrating your interest and commitment to the company. So very much appreciate. Thank you very much again, and thank you to the moderator for coordinating that session. I will, with that, turn it back over to the chairman for further proceedings.
Thank you, shareholders, for actively participating in the AGM and being speakers. Your participation and trust takes us forward. I would also like to thank Managing Director and CEO for dwelling at length and answering your questions. Now, members may cast their e-voting on CSDL platform. Will continue to be available for another 30 minutes. For members who have not cast their votes, requested to do so. Board of Directors appointed Mrs. Gauri Balanke, acting Company Secretary, as a scrutinizer to supervise the e-voting process. Further, the company authorized Mr. Varun Pandey, Company Secretary of the company, declare the result of the voting and place the results both to the stock exchange and the website of the company. The resolution set forth in the notice